Hey guys, welcome back to Grounded Roots Healing. I'm Jason. I'm an alchemist, grid worker, channeler, and probably a lot of other things that I haven't discovered yet. Light worker, etc., etc. Tonight, I want to talk about how I think that unless you can stand nude in front of a crowd of people and be unfazed, you are not completely enlightened. I know how absurd that sounds. Trust me. And I'm not there. But I do believe that, and I'll explain. But before I do that, how do I phrase this? 144 from the Stars Tarot, which is a wonderful channel on here, gave me a shout out a while back, and I made a video 2 videos ago, describing how I thought maybe it didn't get as much coverage as it should have, and it didn't translate as into the subscriber count that I thought maybe it should. And he agreed. He wrote a nice post on my video, and he noticed that when he put the post, it didn't show up in his feed. Then I replied, and I didn't get a reply back from him, which I suspect means he didn't see it. I then got a comment on his post, which was giving me a shout out, and I noticed that I've put 6 replies on there, trying to communicate, and when I open the 6 replies, there's only 1. So I'm sure it's not malicious and has nothing to do with the rhythm changing, but there seems to be something broken with the comment section, and it's I can't see a way around it, because it seems to be automated, this broken function in the comment section, that it happens instantly after you put the comment. So it's almost like if I was a conspiratorial person, like you're on some sort of list, and then as soon as you comment on things, it just gets deleted, or some sort of function put on it. I'm sure it's not that, but that is what it appears to be happening, unfortunately. So I don't know if there's anyone who knows how to question this with the people at YouTube. It would be nice to know if this is actually happening, and why it's happening. Why can't we communicate on this app? Something's broken. So 144, if you're watching, and I hope you do, I have an email attached to my page where you can reach out to me if you'd like. And anyone on here who isn't already subscribed to his channel, please go over and subscribe. He is clearly one of the good guys, and his material has resonated since day one with me. I've said this before, it's almost like he has 2 groups, at least 2. So some of his videos just don't resonate, and it's for someone else. And that is the way to watch tarot readings. Don't force it to fit. But when he does a video that is for my particular group of people, it's incredibly accurate, which is the last 2 videos you've done were fire. They're bang on. It's incredible. So that 222 question that you were talking about, what does that represent? And you were saying it was the fire of God, essentially. That resonated. It was sending off alarm bells, and I even felt a burning sensation in my third eye, as well as all day I've had this. My crown has been on fire. Feels like my brain is burning. It's quite uncomfortable. I'm sure it's nothing. And I have noticed that I have started to see more things than I usually do out of the corner of my eye, and little flashes as well as other things, which, you know, that happens when you start activating this part of you. And I suspect that's what's happening here. It's not just me, of course, but this part of us is getting turned on, which is wonderful because, you know, I feel a sense of peace coming over me. So getting around this function, I think maybe shout outs in video format is the only thing I can think of that would actually work. I mean, and I was thinking also the Joe Rogan approach. Now, I don't watch Joe Rogan, but I know what he has done in order to circumvent this system that is, well, you know. And, you know, he has a lot of friends, a lot of comedians, and when he started to become popular, he didn't, you know, keep the light only to himself. He promoted all of his friends, even though they were smaller comedians and a lot of them no one had heard of. He kept bringing them on and pushing them out, and they've become extremely popular. They made their own careers, and it's done nothing but bring light to him, actually. He's grown bigger because he shared his light. So my point with that is, I think that would be a good approach to grow this sector. Is, you know, not necessarily me. I'm not saying that I'm part of this, but I do see it as a pattern. So if you have friends with similar, well, like large followings, and you guys team up, I think that would be an effective way to grow yourself. There are enough eyes, and because they sub to someone else does not mean they won't sub to you. And the number of eyes are growing. So anyway, we'll leave it there. Now, as far as this naked thing, I was thinking about it. So where to start with this? So I am of the opinion that this body-mind complex is an avatar. And I often equate it to a physical vehicle, like a car. And the soul should be in the driver's seat, driving the car. But for the majority of people in this world, the monkey mind, or the mind that is associated with the mind-body complex, that is responsible for allowing us to survive on this planet, it's the evolution of Homo sapien sapien, is driving the car. And we're fighting for control of it. So the awakening process is taking control of the vehicle and putting the monkey mind in the back seat, respectfully, but not allowing that less evolved version of this whole complex to drive the car. So from that, I'm stating that this is a vehicle. And we also know that, you know, separation from the body-mind complex is often the first realization that you have in the awakening process. You are not the body. You're not. And letting go of that attachment with the body is key to awakening. Okay? So we're not this body, therefore we shouldn't be ashamed of this body. Why would you be? If you had a vehicle that you were driving, I mean, some people actually associate their ego with the car they drive. I don't know why you would do that, but I do know why. I used to do that in the past because that's what society teaches us to do. We're completely associated with this body. We shouldn't be. But if a car had dents in it, or a specific paint color, or a crack in the windshield, you wouldn't be ashamed of the car, or you shouldn't be, because the paint color's not your favorite color, or whatever. People on the outside deem it as not a pretty car. It's a car. Who cares, right? What kind of tires are on it, etc., etc. I mean, you need to have a functioning car. But even if you didn't, you wouldn't be ashamed of it, you know? So, I mean, it's hard to, it's kind of a not a perfect analogy, because people do associate their personality with vehicles and things like this. If there's rust holes in it, they do get ashamed, which is insane. But anyway, you want to love your car. You want to love your body. You want to appreciate it for what it can do for you and what it has done for you. So, little kids that aren't far removed from being on the other side, they have no shame. Just think of that word, shame. This is what you are. You're shameful of your body. Children naturally are not. Dogs are not shameful of their bodies. They're not associated with it. They don't have that self-conscious thing. And the children not being far removed, they don't care. All of my kids, until I'm not sure what age we shamed them into putting clothes back on, but none of them wanted to have clothes on. It's hilarious. We got all kinds of pictures and funny situations from them just being kids and not having any shame at all on what vehicle they were in, because they knew that's a stupid thing to do. So then society starts to affect us. And then we start to grow this, become self-conscious. That starts when you start associating with the body. And I'm not sure what age that happens, but when it happens, you start identifying with the body and you think you are it. Therefore, you become self-conscious, self-conscious. It isn't even you. It's not the self. You've made a mistake here. You've become self-conscious because your self is associated with the body, and that is a mistake. If you could be self-conscious of anything, it would be of your auric field, because that's the real you. Okay. And then I saw a couple of videos about people going through psychosis. Now, I have a soft spot for this because my father has schizophrenia, so I'm intimately aware of what that can do to a person and what it is in reality. It's a very thin veil between all of the dimensions that are layered on top of us, and a lack of understanding of entities that mean you harm. So you don't have any coping skills, and you don't understand what's going on, and you see through everything. And people going through psychosis, like I would have been classified to have gone through when I first had my awakening, would have been like a Kundalini psychosis, which they refer to it as. It's not psychosis. It is not. It's a complete enlightenment overnight. With complete enlightenment overnight, you realize that we are all one. There is no separation. This is all a game. To associate with the body is insane, so you stop doing it immediately. And to the people outside of you that are unawake, they are still associated with all that stuff, and they look at you as if you're crazy, when in reality, you're right. So you will notice that when people go through these phases, these psychosis events, they often strip down. And they have no shame for their bodies anymore. Because why would you? It's irrelevant. There's nothing sexual about this. It's just the body. It's a vessel. Clothes, no clothes, who cares? And this happens quite a bit. So I saw someone on the other app, the clock app, that this happened to them. They started walking around with no clothes, and of course they got tossed in a mental institution and everything. And they were quite traumatized by the event, and they were quite ashamed that they had done that. And I have direct experience with this, because this is what happened to me. So last year, this absolutely happened to me. I went through this, and I had no more shame, and I didn't care. And I would have walked around with no clothes on, irrelevant. It made no difference. And did. So now, I'm not back there yet, not even close. I have so much conditioning to be ashamed of this body, which is not fair to this body, that when I was 20 years old, I was a distance runner. I lifted weights. I was a specimen of a human being. I was in great shape. I am not that anymore. I've had a hard life, but back then, I was embarrassed to take my shirt off. And I often say this, that if I looked half as good as I did back then, I would never put my shirt on. And there's some truth to this, but now this body-mind complex that is Jason, there's still a lot of conditioning in me that I'm working through and trying to get by, that stops me from taking my shirt off at the beach. Things like this. I never would have done this before. I was so self-conscious. This shame around our bodies is put into us. Well, it starts with the church often, quite often. And you can imagine why that would be if you're a little bit conspiratorial and you understand why the church was set up the way it was. And, you know, the teachings of the Bible and Scripture are profound, but the way they've been assembled and the structures of the church have been designed to suppress, in my opinion. And one of the ways they did that was to suppress sexuality and intimacy and this type of stuff, to be puritanically pure, this kind of thing. It was to suppress one of the ways that we reach enlightenment. Now the Hindus knew better, and they did things like tantric stuff, which is one way. It's one way to get exposure to this. I'm not saying like I'm one of the least open people in that regard. I absolutely am a one-woman man type of guy. So but that relationship is a way to reach much higher levels between a man and a woman, or whoever. Okay, so the church has twisted us and made us completely self-conscious, and it's been very effective. And then it goes to our parents, and then it gets passed down to us. And but I do believe that complete detachment from association with the body is a clear sign that you've reached enlightenment, and that a person that can stand in front of a crowd on a stage completely, nude, is enlightened. Or they're exhibitionists and they're just, and I'm not saying people who are like completely fit and, well proportioned and all that stuff. Normal people like me and you would be able to do it and not be self-conscious. I'm not saying you have to do it. And I don't plan on doing it ever. But if you get to a point where you turn on this channel and you see me on here with no shirt on, I've definitely reached a different level. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it there. But it's, man, they really did a number on us on this one, and I still got a long way to go to fix it. Yeah. So, like I always say, I hope this video finds you well. I love you all, and we'll see you soon.